All right, here we go. Welcome back to my drawing journal for May 2023. As always, my name is Freddie, and this month is another big one. This journal will cover weeks 18 to 22. We're going to jump straight into it because it was an interesting month. So to start is week 18, Clash at House K. I've teased this quite a bit already. I owe it to myself to finish it after putting it off for so long. Usually, when I load up a drawing with little to no progress over time, I end up losing interest. Partly to blame is because I'm almost always simultaneously sketching other ideas to do in the future. With this drawing, I had the vision of it planned out. The concept in my head was clear, but the details I was hung up on. I dragged my feet through the initial line work and then I stopped. Most of why I felt that way came from the drawing feeling flat. It's hard to explain, but trust me, it made more sense to me at the time. Week 18 was tough because it was the first time I started feeling my drive starting to wane. So much so that the week ended without a finished drawing. Instead, I started browsing around older drawings again. So, we'll move on. Week 19, Warrior Sarah. Sarah is just a generic character I drew at certain points over the years. She's yet another rogue swordsman who isn't found in a lot of places and yet magically shows up at the right place at the right time. She had pigtails before, or what looked like pigtails anyways, long blonde hair, and wore a dress with a mesh on it, and striped stockings. The draw for me with this character has always been the striped stockings. I like the use of stripes, though I find stripes challenging to incorporate into outfits. That could also just be my lack of experience in outfit design. Sarah is also a character I've flipped by many times while looking through old sketches for ideas. I made several mental notes to want to draw her and rework her one day. I finally decided I should do it this week, and I feel like I didn't do it justice. I started this drawing like any other, decided to try something radically different with her hair. I like the side buzz cut, but I'm not entirely sure if she's a character I want to use it on. Her character is supposed to be more on the careless, bubbly type, one of those characters that has an absurd amount of skill but comes off as inexperienced to others. The outfit was mostly kept the same, although looking back, I should have taken a bit more time to rework it. Coming off the heels of not finishing Clash at House K, my motivation had already been at a low point. The pose was okay, but nothing special. The outfit wasn't fully featured. The original reason for the outfit, which were the stripes, weren't even shown, and the coloring was flat. That, along with the boring background, I'd say the whole thing was uninspired. I was probably not the happiest in the entire process I was doing this. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I know that my mood reflected on the results. Sometimes you do something you don't like from start to finish. This was certainly one of them. Week 20, Kawaii, with three eyes. At this point, I wasn't feeling too inspired to draw something new. It didn't help matters that Tears of the Kingdom released, and that was already taking up a lot of my free time. But my friends and I get together to play something from time to time. We've been playing some Heartwood Heroes and making some adventures happen. Think of a tabletop games with a lot of humor. You create an adventurer and receive a main quest. You then move across the board and land in spaces in order to gain or sometimes even lose money and or XP, depending on how your turn's event ends up going. For this adventure, I ended up drawing the character I made, Kawaii. All right, bear with me. I was originally going to name her Kawaii Debbie, but that was too long for the name than the game allowed, so I just added an extra I. Her face was happy and cheery, and then I added the face goop. I still don't know what that's supposed to be. Maybe like a pie face? Like every game in Heartwood Heroes, shenanigans ensued. Like how every time she went through a portal, she'd end up fighting a monster that ended up killing her and she'd return to town. Or that she was cursed by a slime monster parasite that stays on her head. And then later, her first weapon was a tentacle. After the tentacle, I thought, wait a minute, this looks. Anyways, I recommend playing this game with some friends for some laughs. The only downside is that it's not client to client based, it's Steam Play only at the moment. So if you have a friend with a really good connection, have them get it and play it from their feed. As for the drawing, it felt quick, but it felt refreshing to draw an established character. I don't mind coming up with original characters, but sometimes you just want to draw what's been drawn before, but different. The clothing she had in game didn't leave a lot to the imagination, so there was a lot of skin to color. I may go back to draw the crew of this adventure. I mean, look at them. They're the spitting image of heroes. Overall, I feel like this is the week where I gained most of my motivation back. Week 21, Neon Bunny Rin. Around the time that I was finishing Warrior Sarah, I started sketching this one. I didn't know at the start what or who I was drawing, but I liked the pose and the perspective. You went out? Oh, you can't leave. Hold on. She don't like me talking. She doesn't like me talking. Around the time I was finishing Warrior Sarah, I started sketching this one. I didn't know at the start what or who I was drawing, but I liked the pose and the perspective. I thought I'd do another drawing of Quest, but in her dojo outfit, but quickly scrapped it. So, seeing how I had drawn Tabs and then Rumi, I figured I'd continue by drawing the third member of Gunner Bunny, Rin. Rin's character is the smart one. She's the tech girl. She's the one who can think of solutions to any problem if you give her all the variables. She'll figure it out. Rin's old design was pretty basic. She had bleached blonde short hair with streaks of color in it. She wore a red vest and a red miniskirt and her skates. Not exactly the most comfortable attire for moving around. She had a computer strapped to her back, and that would feed her information to her visor, the screens on her gloves, and her PDA. Yes, I said PDA. On top of that, she had ribbon cables going around her body. I knew going back to her that I needed to update her look. Ribbon cables have, for the most part, been replaced by slimmer cables now, and PDAs are just smartphones. Her clothes aren't radically different, but it's a bit more comfortable than what she had previously. I had a rough idea for the background that continued to fuel my desire to keep going. I think I'm starting to see that I'm attracted to drawings with vibrant and bold colors that give something more of an edge. In this case, the pink and blue definitely gave it a flair than a standard night scene would. I'm starting to understand a bit more of what works for me and what doesn't. I feel like I'll be doing more bold color inclusions in my drawings, similar to Picasso style, but still my own. This is the week where I felt like I started getting my groove back. Week 22, Dark World Nurse. While sketching Neon Bunny Rin and Kawaii with three eyes, I was already sketching this drawing. You can actually tell because a lot of the pose I used for Kawaii is used for this drawing. A long time ago, I thought of a doctor and a nurse that ran a dark hospital. The doctor was equivalent of a mad scientist. The nurse was as careless as can be. So much so that I drew her holding out one finger as to say that she'll take an order as soon as this song is finished. I've drawn nurses in the past. My very first one was of Kaylee as a nurse when she had dirty blonde hair. I remember going to the Anime Suki forums asking, how do I create professional art? And all I got back was, that's a very vague question. It was true. It had no substance. I knew what I was asking, but no one else could possibly know that. I also ended up uploading a progress version of Kaylee as a nurse to the forum, but it was in 300 ppi, so it blew up the forum because it was so massive. I recently did a version of Kaylee as a nurse again that I have shown but never talked about. The outfit was mostly the same and the hair was similar. Is it Kaylee? I don't know, probably not. Hard to say anymore, but I do see the improvement. As for this one, going back to redraw her felt satisfying. Not to mention, I loved the pose and I loved the colors I went with. I could have done more with the background, but honestly, it's a good start for her and her design. In the future, I want to see if I can recreate some of the older concepts in this version. This is the week where I felt my motivation fully return to me in a big way. If Kawaii was the beginning, Rin's drawing was what caused the dam to crack, and this character really broke it. So, now that I had week 22 finished, I can go back to week 18 again. It was after I was almost done with Dark World Nurse that I felt a strong duty to finish Clash at House K. I've teased it twice in my videos, and I thought, well, I can't go back on that now that I've said something, right? I actually could, but part of the reason that I lost motivation on this one was because I initially felt stuck. I saw the lines I had already put down and thought this was what I had to go with, what I had to continue using, that I couldn't change lanes. You know what else you can do? You redraw it, you improve it, you change it so you feel satisfied with it. Because you can. Because at this stage, you can go about things a million different ways and you don't have to stay on the same rails you were on previously. I also have this habit that I've been learning to break to not leave things unfinished. It's something I've struggled with for so long, and ironically, it's something that doesn't really apply to other things in my life, but only drawing. So, let me finally talk about Clash at House K. House K is a castle. K stands for the man only known to everyone as King. There is also another castle for House Q and another for House J. So far, you can see it is just a standard playing card setup. These castles are essentially disguised casinos networked together to make money for the one in the shadows known as Guasón. Guasón roughly translates to Joker or Jester in Spanish. The characters you see here is Ryosuke versus a Suit Witch. Suit Witch isn't necessarily the same one I drew before, but are mostly used as both card dealers for the card tables and security if needed. Ryosuke is someone who trained with Terako at a very young age, but then lost track of her after certain events. He's been searching for her for years at this point. They had a close relationship that eventually collapsed after Emiko's discovery of being a Valkyrie. In terms of how this turned out, I think it was good enough for what I had in mind. Probably not the cleanest and not the best in terms of color choice, but I'm also trying not to both spend too much time on something and get hung up on the details all the time. I figure with more and more time, my workflow will eventually get efficient enough to be able to give myself more room to work on these things and get better at them. I was happy with it. It's not always easy to keep yourself motivated enough to not only start new projects but also see them through. In light of events for this journal, the topic for the month is motivation. It's one of the mysteries of our lives. How do we get it? And how do we keep it going? It's not a simple thing to answer because motivation isn't exactly something that comes easy, or even if you have the want to do something, how do you compel yourself to take that first step? My therapist has said that sometimes you should just do what you know you love doing because you already know you love doing it, and that you will soon enough find what you lost in it. Getting over that mental block by not thinking about getting started again eases you back into what you wanted to do. So far, that's worked for me. Getting my feet wet without knowing what I'm jumping into has been refreshing for someone like me, who's usually pretty reserved, because I'm always wanting to jump into things at the right time or else I'll feel like they'll fail. Keep in mind that if you're already not having fun with it and you're just forcing yourself to love it, it's okay to take a step back and take time to reevaluate what it is that you're not liking anymore. Take your time, you'll figure it out. While jumping in has worked for me, I can't exactly expect that to work for everyone. This month I struggled a lot keeping my time allotted to drawing. It didn't help that Tears of the Kingdom released halfway through and it sucked all the extra time I had. In the same vein, sometimes people don't even have the free time to do what they want after getting home from work, cooking, chores, anything. You just want to lay down, rest, take a load off, or just completely do something different. I found out this month that I do a lot of my drawings in bed at the end of the day. In fact, 90% of what I did this month was in bed while either listening or watching something. But beyond being motivated, more importantly, how do you keep the motivation going once you found your rhythm? It's no secret the more you have of something, oftentimes you'll feel less of what you initially felt for it. It's like when you start going to the gym, you begin with the motivation to go daily, but eventually you may find yourself going less and less or struggle to keep that same enthusiasm. Or even in a relationship. Once you get past that honeymoon phase, you'll run into the real issues that you must work through together in order to keep that relationship in a happy and healthy state. In short, You fight for the things that are important to you. I can't speak for anyone else, but I can say three things that have worked for me. Number one is drawing already made characters. It's been a tried and true solution for me. Drawing other people's characters is fun and allows me to just take what's already there. Previously, Tree of Savior was that game that would inspire me to draw on many occasions. Previous to that, it was Ragnarok Online. I absolutely loved drawing my and my friends' characters. It was fun because I had many references ready to go, and a lot of the times I drew from what happened in the day or session. Number two was listening to music or videos. I have my drawing playlist on this channel, which is a collection of music of games that I've been fond of and put me in a better mood. I also have a variety of channels I often listen to. Some are psych channels, sometimes I binge true crime, usually anything with a longer runtime. In short, make playlists of things to listen to that will keep you in a good mood. And number three of what's worked for me is doodling ideas while you're in a creative mood. Think of this as storing creative ideas for later. I found it more difficult to think of ideas when I'm not motivated, but also found that seeing a rough idea of drawing on paper or on screen re energizes my want to do these projects. When something comes to you, make a note, draw a scribble, make a rough outline, and save it. When you're looking for ideas again, you will have something you already thought would be a cool idea to do. Week 23 preview is Angel's Reach. I did Cyber Marley in a previous week, but thought I'd show what a standard Marley looks like. I'm currently working on this and should be done with it soon. As always, I hope you've enjoyed this entry in my drawing journal and have found something to take from it. A reminder to always just do your best. Drawing's supposed to be something you enjoy while you're still figuring out your style, so take your time with it. Thanks for watching.